So I have identified 5 ways to differentiate yourself. So let me highlight one point, that whenever there is a crowded situation, whether it's a job or careers or businesses trying to be successful, uh, if there is a oversupply of uh, there is an oversupply, more supply than demand in any situation. So someone is selling, there are more hotels than really the guests, or there is more airline seats than really travelers. How do you meet that situation? The only way to really be successful is to differentiate yourself. That's what the businesses do. This is not a new concept. Businesses try to create competitive advantage, and with a competitive advantage, the good companies not only survive, but they thrive. Let me give you 2 examples which will make the point very clear. In So take the example of iPhone or Apple. uh, it feels like that we were born with iPhone, which is really not true. iPhone was only introduced in 2007, right? Only 5 years ago or 6 years ago. If you remember, those of you who were actively working at that time, in 2006, 2007, the mobile phone market was overcrowded. There were so many brands and so many type of phones, and BlackBerry was ruling the world. Nobody thought a new brand or a new type of phone would come and be successful. But Apple came. Apple came in 2007, and rest is the history. I don't have to repeat that, right? But Apple came with a very competitive, very distinct advantage, very comparative advantage, right? It was a very different type of products, very different positioning and branding, right? That's why they were very successful, so much so that they almost killed the leader of the market, BlackBerry, who was ruling at that time. Number one. Number two example, think of Google. I think Google came around 2001, 2002, or 2003, right? And those of you again who were active at that time, if you recall, the internet market was overcrowded with search engines at that time. At least 10 to 15 search engines. If you have to search something, you first have to make a selection which search engine you are going to use. Not like today that everything is on Google. And nobody thought that at that time a new search engine would come and be successful. But Google came at that time around the crowded market and was extremely successful because they came with a competitive advantage, very different, right? So in a crowded market, let me relate it back to the talent market. If you have talent market, there is a lot of talent supply, oversupply actually. The only way for you to succeed is to differentiate yourself. Bring the qualities which no other people are offering. And I'll explain that in a moment, how you could do that. This concept is also very well explained in the strategy book Blue Ocean Strategy, if you are familiar with that. Blue Ocean Strategy says that rather than going to a highly competitive market, they call it a Red Sea, Red Ocean, where already there is a lot of blood, everybody is cutting throat for each other. Rather than going into that market, go to Blue Ocean, where there are not many cutthroat competitors are there, and it's an open ocean for you. And what Apple and Google did, they basically identified a blue ocean, and they very easily float into that ocean and become successful. So you need to really, from a career point of view, from a talent point of view, you need to develop a blue ocean strategy for your talent marketing, and I'll explain you in a few minutes. So let's identify the 5 ways to differentiate yourself in a crowded or oversupplied talent market. So number one strategy or tool is create visibility. Create visibility. Why? Because as I mentioned, that recruiters are no more posting the jobs, generally speaking. What they are doing, and I have few specific examples where actually I saw that very clearly, that rather than posting the jobs or announcing the jobs publicly, they quietly went to the LinkedIn and started searching the potential candidates with the profile. And when they identified 5, 6 people, they basically contacted those people on their own and say that, look, I have a opportunity. Do you know anyone who fit that profile, or are you interested in that job? And that is how they identified those, if not 5, maybe 10 people, very targeted, and they started their search process going forward. The majority of the world did not know about those jobs, right? So if you really want to attract job rather than chase job, the first thing you need to do is to create visibility. If you're not visible, nobody's going to notice you, right? And that's one of the strongest, weak point for most professionals. So to start with, what you could do, my suggestion is go on the Google and Google yourself. What does it mean? Put your name on the Google search and see what results comes up. So if you have a very specific name, like my name is very unique, Salim Sufi. There are no other Salim Sufi in the world. So whatever I search, it comes only for me. But if you have very common name like Ahmad Ali, probably you need to add something else to that name, your name of the company or the town you live, to make it more specific. But if you Google yourself, that would tell you what is your visibility. Maybe nothing comes up, so you're not visible, right? Or maybe a lot of results comes up, but that is a starting point, right? So let me take you to a practical example of from my own career, from my own personal positioning, so you could better understand what I'm talking about. So give me a second. This is a blank Google page, right? What you are seeing on the screen, I hope you see a blank Google page when you are starting a search, right? So in this search, let me type my name, Saleem, Salim Sufi, and let's go, right? Now you see the results, right? So this is the first page from Google, searching Salim Sufi. What you see here? First result is Salim Sufi leadership. This is from my personal website, salimsufi.com. Okay, good. Number two, about Salim Sufi. That's about page from my personal website again. Third result, Salim Sufi LinkedIn. That's my LinkedIn profile coming up. Fourth result, Meca CFO Lines Home. That's again related to me. As I told you, I'm the founder of Meca CFO Lines. Of course, there is my information available. So the fourth result is also for me from Meca CFO Lines. Next result, Salim Sufi profile Facebook. This is from my Facebook profile. Next result, Sufi Salim profile Facebook, again from my Facebook profile, right? And then you see few pictures. There is one picture of mine, but there is another person somewhere in India or Pakistan who is also a Sufi Salim, similar name, who is a folk singer. So of course some results show up from him. And the next two results, Master Salim, is from that person, YouTube from that person. So usually Google lists 10 results on the first page, and you can see that in my case, 8 results are personally related to me if I search Salim Sufi. Now imagine if someone is searching for you for whatever reason, whether they are looking at you as a candidate or for other business, and they try to search you, and which is very common, by the way. If you meet someone new on a business reason or for personal reason, and if they are curious to know about you, probably they would go on Google and start searching you. And if nothing comes up, you are not visible, you are not known, right? So you need to first make an assessment by Googling yourself that how much visibility is there for your personal profile. Now, how your personal profile would come up? Of course, you need to do a lot of work. So let me take you to my LinkedIn profile. Okay, I hope now you see my LinkedIn profile on your screen. And as you can see, of course, my picture, I try to keep the same picture everywhere so that it becomes my brand. People immediately recognize this is Salim Sufi. And you see Salim Sufi, CFO, leadership coach, speaker, strategy, balance scorecard expert, president, founder, CFO Academy. That's my title list. That's my headline, right? And as you can see that I have more than 500 contacts, but it's really not 500 plus. If you look a little lower, there are my blog posts are listed. It's only 3, but there are 25, 30. And on above the blog post, you see 10,585 followers. Those are the people who are not only my first level connections, but the people who decide to follow me through my blogs or through my LinkedIn, right? So, so on the surface, it looks good, right? Very strong profile. Not to brag myself, but just to explain how could you make yours. And then you see my summary quickly, and then my experiences, listing of the jobs. So Alphanar, Intercast, Philips, all the jobs I have worked through. And then you see another section related to the endorsements. People keep endorsing me. I don't know for what reason, but you can notice here that certain capabilities, I'm exceeding the 99. In fact, there are 300, 400 endorsements So a lot of endorsement. I did not ask for them. People just come and endorse. Then my education, Harvard Business School, IBA Karachi, where I'm qualified as an MBA, and a lot of other things. My point here is that if you, and by the way, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile or have a weak profile, you are missing a lot. You are really missing a lot. LinkedIn nowadays is a gold mine for professionals like you and me. And if you are not strongly present on LinkedIn, uh, you would miss a lot because, as I said, most of the job searches are taking place on LinkedIn nowadays. Let me tell you the truth. In the last 2 years, based on this profile you are looking at, based on this profile, in the last 2 years, I have received at least 20 unsolicited contact from recruiters. Unsolicited. I'm not in the job market. I'm not looking for jobs, but somehow they find me, these recruiters, and they approach me through a LinkedIn internal message or through my email or whatever they find to contact me and ask me that, look, here is a CFO opportunity and we are looking for this profile. Do you know anyone or would you be interested? Something like that. That is how I received 20 contacts in the last 20 years on their own without my effort. Now, to my surprise, as you could notice that in my profile, it no more says CFO of a certain company because, as I explained earlier, I left my CFO job last year and I'm dedicating myself full time as a CFO leadership coach and a speaker. So it tells that I'm no more an active CFO. To my utmost surprise, last month I again received another contact from a recruiter, a very senior, large search firm, senior recruiter, again approached me through the LinkedIn internal message and said that, look, you are highly recommended for it. By the way, it was a CFO job for a $1 billion company in USA. And he said that you are highly recommended and I just want to have a conversation with you. If you could spare 10-15 minutes, and if you are not interested, probably you could refer someone else. And they also know that through my CFO Academy and CFO Alliance, I know a lot of CFOs. So with my branding, my point is I keep attracting these opportunities and recruiters, right? So why can't you do that if you do some work? Let me bring you back to the presentations. Okay, so what do we mean by visibility? I'm very visible, by the way. I just showed you the proof that if anybody searches me on Google, they find 8 profiles, 8 information related to me out of 10 on the first page. So Google yourself. LinkedIn is crucial. So again, we don't have a time here to really go into the detail what we need to do on LinkedIn, but you need to read a book on LinkedIn, find out an expert, take a help from somewhere. There's a lot of uh, articles and blogs available on internet to help you improve your Google. But do that. Google Plus is also very important. Now realize that Google Plus is related to Google. So if you put a profile on Google Plus, uh, there is a lot more chances that Google Plus profile would be showed on the first page because Google take extra advantage to show their own Google Plus profile first before the other results. So don't forget Google Plus, and of course Twitter and YouTube. So for me, especially with my CFO leadership coaching, I have to be very visible. So I'm very much there on the LinkedIn. I'm very much there on the Google and Twitter and YouTube and few other places. So that's number one. Number two, structured networking. So I'll go a little faster because I think we will run out of time if I take more detail here. But be careful with the networking. So there is a lot of talk about networking, but don't spend time. If you are a job seeker or you are actively searching, don't spend time networking with the people with the networking meetings where all unemployed people are there. If there are 20 people and 18 of them are unemployed, you're not going to get so much help from there. So I call it structured networking. Structured networking, be very careful where you want to spend time because your time is limited. So first of all, most important places to network is professional bodies. So go to, if you are a CPA or ACCA or CMA, go to those places where there is a lot of other professionals out there. Mostly these meetings or events are organized by your institutions, or come to the Meca CFO conferences. We do every year a couple of conferences, and there is a lot of professionals. So be careful where you go. Number two, the place you could go is industry associations. So if you are in hospitality or retail or FMGC or oil and gas, try to go to the places where other people from the same industry is there. So there are specific industries, for example, hospitality or retail. If you're already there in those industry, probably you would continue your career in those industries. So it makes a lot of idea that you also interact and associate with those people who are from the same industry, so you could find out opportunities. And by the way, they are also looking for people from the same industry, so it makes sense to network over there. In addition to that, connect to the recruiters. uh, my suggestion is that you may say that I don't know many recruiters. Well, go on the LinkedIn and carefully identify the recruiters who meet the type of the jobs you are in or the type of the industry you are in, and send a request for connection with some, not blind, but with some explanation why do you want to connect. And usually these recruiters are happy to accept the connection request from good professionals, because they also want to have a large database of the candidates, in case they search, so they could find within their own network. So they don't want to go and post jobs all the time. They want to have people in their own network, which if they have a job, that they can find very quickly. So that's another area. Senior executives, decision makers, not everyone, but the people who really have the access to the resources or the openings, try to connect with them however you can. And don't forget the social clubs. You could do that on social media also, but be selective who you are networking with. Don't waste your time, because as I said, your time is very, very limited. Third idea, create a personal brand. Now, uh, there is a lot of confusion about personal brand. Many people really do not understand what personal branding means. Personal branding is not really getting into a popularity contest. Personal branding is, again, differentiating. So my simple advice is, avoid being a journalist. This is a high tendency among the finance professionals, that we try to create a profile. We want to prove that we know everything. I know analysis, I know strategy, I know treasury, I know controllership, I know compliance, I know audit. That's a huge mistake, especially for the mid career and senior finance professionals. You don't want to portray yourself as a journalist, you want to portray as a specialist, right? So if you have a pain in your body, where would you go? You would prefer to go a specialist who deals or specializes in pain. And if you have a shoulder pain, probably you would like to go to a doctor who specializes in shoulder pain. And if you have a pain in your right shoulder, probably you would prefer to go to a doctor who specializes in right shoulder pain, if one is available, right? We are living in an era of specialization. So when you specialize, you differentiate yourself. My specialization, so as a finance professional, uh, since around the middle of my career, I try to specialize. Initially, I was specializing in manufacturing finance. So I spent a lot of time when I was in Singapore working for Philips Electronics for 14 countries. I spent a lot of time in manufacturing plant. That becomes my brand. I implemented activity-based costing in 6 regional plants at that time. Later on, when I moved to USA, I developed more interest in balance scorecard and strategy. So I moved my brand from manufacturing finance to the strategy and balance scorecard, and that became my brand. So people in later in my career would hire me because of only a couple of reasons. Only a couple of reasons that was part of my brand. Number one, that I deeply understand or involve or have capability in a strategy and balance scorecard, which relates to the performance management, by the way. So very relevant to the finance professional, number one. Number two, I happen to work for many global organizations who have SAP ERP system. That also becomes my specialty and brand. And thirdly, global. So anybody looking for a finance professional global with some SAP experience and having a heavy experience and involvement in strategy, I was a perfect fit. That is how I got my jobs, at least last 3 or 4 jobs based on my branding. As a matter of fact, let me tell you, my last job in Middle East with Alfanar in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, which is a multi-billion-dollar company. And that was in 2010, and I was jobless because of the global financial crisis. I was in USA, and the semiconductor industry I was working for decided to move their operations to Taiwan. So I lost my job and I couldn't move to Taiwan. So at that time, I don't know how did it happen. I will say that it was my visibility. A recruiter in Riyadh city in Saudi Arabia somehow found me in New York, found me in New York, and then contacted me, established contact, and we started to talk. Long story short, uh, I ended up receiving an offer from Alphanar company for a divisional CFO for their largest division. Why? Because two reasons. Number one, they were looking for someone with SAP experience. They have SAP ERP system implemented and they were having a lot of problems. Number one. Number two, they wanted to have someone with a global experience who could understand the local culture and the local issues, but also have Western experience, right? Western experience with understanding of the local culture. I was a perfect fit. And on top of it, strategy experience. I was a perfect fit. I got a job, right? So try to create your personal brand and become known for your talent. So not only that you know some specialties, but publicize it and establish your positioning. Thought leadership also, like I have a thought leadership in strategy and balance scorecard. I think I know much more than an average finance professional knows about it. That is what you need to target. In fact, my suggestion is try to become among the top 10% in your profession or your specialty. So to explain what personal branding is, I think the best quote is from Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon. And he says that, look, what is a brand, personal brand? Personal brand is what people will say about you when you are not in the room. That's your personal brand is. Okay, next. Highlight your achievement. So, very interestingly, for many, or most finance professionals, what you would notice on their CV or resume or their LinkedIn profile, what they want to list is really their qualification, responsibilities, experiences, and that puts them back into the crowd because everybody else is doing it. Now, you need to focus on your achievement, results, rather than really qualification and responsibilities. As I said, today's businesses are extremely brutal to create results and value. So, if you show results, what you have done, they value a lot. Again, the same example why the Saudi company hired me, because I have a lot of results to show. When I moved to USA, that was back in 98, and Philips Electronics basically moved me. So this was a parallel move from a senior finance to senior finance in USA. At that time, I thought that look, it's the Philips Electronics company which really moved me USA. So I have this good job at the senior corporate level. But if I have to go on my own in the US corporate market, probably I have to do another CPA or MBA before I get a job. Well, in 2003 or 2004, I happened to be in the job market in USA, and I did not have any USA qualification, and I was very scared that whether I would be able to get a job from US company or not. To my utmost surprise, long story short, in 4 or 5 months, I was in the job market in USA, and I had three offers in my hand, senior level, three offers. And I could tell you the name of the companies. Wells Fargo, the fourth largest bank in the world, offered me a vice president position. A company called L'Oreal, which is a global cosmetics company, offered me a position of financial controller. And another medical device company offered me a position of divisional CFO. Now, nobody asked any question about my Pakistani educational qualification, but they were looking at my results. They were looking at my results, which I achieved in Philips Electronics in Asia Pacific and in USA. So, end of the day, people care less about your responsibilities and academic qualification and experiences. They want to see your results. So, focus on your results. Okay. And when you, if you have a chance to talk about your achievement and your background, especially in the interviews, develop short stories about your successes. So you keep conversation going on. One mistake many candidates do, they go to the interview if they are called for, and they just become available. Passive. Look, you called me for interview. I'm here. I'm available. Ask me whatever you want to ask. That's not the right way. You need to drive the conversation. That's your responsibility. You want to share your success stories. So don't leave it at the mercy of the interviewer to ask right question. Drive the conversation in the direction where it ends up you sharing your success stories. It only happens when you have a good stories, really practice and memorize to describe your successes. And you will say that you might argue that, look, I don't have success stories because my job is really to do the month end close only. And what stories would I create in the month end close? Then find time to work on the non-routine projects, especially finance professionals. Most of the finance and accounting is routine work. So you need to really find projects, non-routine, because only special and non-routine projects will give you the opportunity to create non-routine and special projects, results. In my case, it was balanced scorecard. In my case, it was implementation of activity-based costing. In my case, a lot of other projects I did. So that's your responsibility to jump on the projects of non-routine nature to create non-routine results. Final idea, enhance your business acumen. Now, let me say that and let me admit it, and hopefully you would agree that finance professionals are notorious, really lacking business acumen. Now, again, there are a lot of exceptions, there are a lot of good people, very talented, but generally speaking, we are so much focused on accounting, we are so much focused on number crunching. People don't hesitate to call us number cruncher or bookkeeper or bean counter. So that it's your responsibility to change that image. So when you talk to the non-finance people, don't talk about your accounting knowledge, talk about your business knowledge. And believe me, I see so many senior level finance professionals at the level of vice president finance or GM finance or CFOs, and they think that they know everything about business and strategy. Unfortunately, they don't, because it's a very complex area. And you don't need to go back and do another MBA or executive MBA, but please take some formal courses, read few books on the subjects to learn it. Only then you are going to learn business and strategy. We are only accountants with our original professional accounting qualifications. Understand the value creation cycle of your business. I bet you ask any CFOs, and half of the CFOs are not able to understand and describe the value creation cycle of their businesses. That is what is required in today's time, not your accounting knowledge or IFRS knowledge. And once you understand the strategy and the value creation cycle of your business, then try to relate with the financial numbers, because you have the advantage of having a strong finance background and you can do it far better than anyone else. So that's your opportunities. And as I said, don't don't worry about your accounting expertise. Everybody knows that you're accountant, right? And unfortunately, it's not something to be proud of, although it's very important qualification. But try to, if you are, again, if you are middle level or higher and your ambition is to really go to the top CFO or C level, then please learn business. Talk about your business knowledge, value creation strategy, not about your accounting and finance knowledge. Okay, so these are the five key areas where you really need to work very hard, focus upon, to change, to create competitive advantage. Uh, what I'm going to share with you quickly, six mindsets is also very, very important. So there is a concept called internal game and external game, I call it. And to me, I'm a big believer in the internal game. What does it mean? To create external success in the outer world, you need to first work on yourself. You need to gear up yourself. You need to believe in your ability. You need to really have a high level of confidence and energy to create those external results. And those, a starting point of internal game is really having the right mindset. Uh, I have a very strong analogy to explain that. Think of, you are driving a car, an automotive, right? And somehow you forgot to release the emergency brakes. You forgot to release the emergency brakes, right? And you are trying to drive car faster and putting pressure on the gas pedal or the accelerator, and car is really making a lot of noise, but really it's not picking up the speed. It's not driving slowly because there is emergency brakes on, which you don't know. Your internal game, your inner game is like emergency brakes. Many people don't realize that unless you release your emergency brakes, which is your inner game, unless you fix your inner game, you're not going to have much outer success. So you need to first work on yourself and create a mindset, create a mental capacity first to create external results, and you will notice that the game would become much easier. By the way, there is also a short video available somewhere in my blogs about that mindset. If you could not get these ideas in these blogs, because I'm trying to speed up now because of the time constraint. If you couldn't get all the ideas, then go to that video, it's 7 minutes video, and watch that video. I'll send you the link later on. So number one, and these are very simple, by the way. Number one, it's a free agent society. What does it mean? That you are free to work for any company. Nobody forces you. Similarly, your employer, they are also free to hire anyone. You work with an employer as long as employer sees a value in you and you see a value in employer. If one or both of the parties do not see any value, you can terminate that contract anytime. It's not a contract, but you can decide to fire your employee, or you can decide to leave employer, right? It's a free agent society. No matter what, it's a free agent society. So that's the mindset you need to have. Number two, all jobs are temporary. All jobs are temporary, but your profession or your career is permanent. So you may be working for a company for 5 years, 10 years, maybe 15, 20 years. You're lucky if you're working for 15, 20 years, but it's temporary. The average tenure of jobs are reducing very fast. So the average tenure of a CFO in USA is somewhere close to 3.2 or 3.5, something like that. But it's not more than between 3 and 4 years, average tenure for a CFO, right? So you would be lucky if you cross 3, 4 years by the law of averages. You need to focus on your career and your profession. Manage your career from a long-term point of view. Of course, your job, your current job is very important. I'm not saying that it's not important, but your career is even more important. So focus on your long-term career and manage it from that point of view. Third, it's not about work-life balance. It's about work-life integration. So many people live in compartments, like this is my personal life, this is my work life. I would devote my time and attention between 9 and 5, and then my personal life wouldn't do anything. Weekend is my, this is not going to work. In new economy, today's business environment, uh, we are bound to work 24/7, 24/7, especially if you are a senior level. So I'm not saying that literally you are working 24/7, but you are mentally attached to your work 24/7. So what you need to do is really integrate your personal and work life. Integrate means that uh, in my case, I never mind doing some small personal things at my work during all of my career. But at the same time, there was hardly any weekend I did not do any corporate work at my home. That was my integration. So integration goes by priority, not by time schedules. So you create that, look, it's my integrated life. Of course, work is part of your life. And your personal life, of course, is very, very important. So when you are at work, you cannot stop thinking about your family or your personal issues if you have anything. Similarly, if you are a responsible professional, you cannot stop thinking about your work or work challenges when you are at home during a work day or a weekend. You are a responsible professional. So it's your integrated life, and it should be run by priorities, whatever comes first. Growth. Growth is a natural human tendency. Okay, so when we are younger, of course, we are physically growing and we have a lot of growth, observation, and experience. And then you go to school and college, you are growing. Even at the start of your career, you are growing in your job. The problem happens when you started to hit the middle of your career and middle of your age, because physically you are not growing, and professionally you may be experiencing slow growth. At that time, it is very important to keep yourself energetic and ambitious and motivated. You start learning few other things. As I mentioned, today we have to learn continuously. So you have to have a feeling in your mind that you're growing. If you're not growing in your physical body, fine. But you need to grow in your job. If you're not growing in your job, at least you need to grow in your learning, in your abilities, in your capacity. So keep learning something. Very important mindset. Number five, I think we talked about it. What matters is really your achievement. not roles and responsibilities. So focus on your achievement. People keep asking me, even at the senior level, that should I really do another CMA or ACCA or another qualification? And I said, look, if you have one qualification, one senior level, that's good enough. Now you need to focus learning your skills and talents and abilities and focus on achievement and result, because you keep on adding your results and achievement, which will benefit you a lot better and more effective than your educational and professional qualification. So focus on your achievement. And number five, you need to take full responsibility wherever you are today. It's probably the most important mindset, because I'm sure you know those people, and I come across those people who always find excuses and blames that, look, I'm not growing because my company is not growing, or I don't have the right boss, or I don't have the right environment, or my work colleagues are really not really good, not supportive. These are all excuses. You can manage them if you want to. So you have to first of all take full responsibility for all of your achievement. Wherever you are today, it's because of you, and you can change that. The biggest benefit of this mindset is that if you take responsibility, at least you would try to improve it